Hi, this is Terry Wallum with Clark County Association of Realtors. Today we're going to be interviewing Sharon Wylie from the 49th District. Want to thank Sharon for taking the time to be with us here today. Sharon, for the first question, I was going to be asking you, how should the legislature address the housing shortage in Washington?
I think that this coming session, we're going to be playing defense. The way this session is shaping up, there's going to be a real minimum number of bills. I think that the things that we need to protect are our housing trust fund and projects that are in place that, particularly ones that involve multiple partners, which a lot of government supported housing is definitely a partnership. There's always multiple strands of money and requirements that go into it. So protecting our housing trust fund, making sure we don't take it away, doing what we can in terms of picking up good bills that would have passed that make, for instance, more flexibility on accessory dwelling units and things like that, and tiny houses. There are things that always, particularly in a short session, are good ideas, but they just ran out of time. I think that those kinds of things might have a shot. So if there's things that the realtors believe were really good ideas and it was just a matter of time, I think that, and if it helps people with housing and it helps the market, I think those things have a shot. But there will be a real limit on how many bills we can do because of staff capacity being diverted to trying to do public input while doing virtual meetings. Right now, the House is going to do most of its work virtually, and they're using technology to try to make sure that we meet the requirements of our open meetings law.
Thank you very much for that. I'll roll right into our next question is, what approach will you have in the coming session as it relates to revenue?
Things could change. So at this moment in time, I'm up to my eyeballs in revenue issues related to transportation. The transportation budget, even with the courts throwing out the Iman initiative, we're looking at about a 20% hit on all of our transportation dollars and revenue streams. Operating budget is about 2% at this point. And so everything will depend upon what our federal government does in terms of assistance to states. And all of that is up in the air right now. But right now, the operating with the robust rainy day fund that we had, and a lot of the furloughs and things that were done early on that were within the purview of the governor to do without legislative action, there were savings. And sales tax dependent state people are still ordering online. We have particular industries in tourism and hospitality and restaurants and a few others that are going to need some assistance. We're going to need to look at, I think, being creative in terms of replenishing our employment security fund. Again, there's a lot the federal government can do because they can print money and a strong economy can dig out. So revenue will depend, investments will depend on vulnerable people's needs and what kinds of things actually help our economy recover. Transportation, we're looking at what does a long-term package look like. We're going to be floating some ideas this session. I will, by the end of the year, I will have participated in almost 100 listening sessions all over the state with just a very small team, looking at what kind of revenue can you support, what are your priorities, what can't wait, and what helps our economy, what helps your industry, what helps your community. And it's public, private, tribes, everything from gravel haulers to small cities. So we will have had an incredible listening opportunity, and it has been really a listening session, but also mutual education on what our needs are, what our options are, what we're doing right now, what we could do, what we shouldn't do. So those conversations have been incredibly useful and rich, and probably wouldn't have happened without the pandemic. Transportation, we're looking at a long-term package. Operating budget, we're looking at trying to preserve things that help us in the long term and delaying things that we can delay in order to avoid any kind of economic damage. But a lot of that will depend on how much help we get from the federal government.
Okay. The next question you kind of already answered. I'll put it out there just if there's anything else you want to add. How should we balance commitments and investments with the economic impacts that have been felt statewide?
I think that one of the ironies has to do with replenishing the Employment Security Fund. We had a very robust fund, and we're in better shape than other states. And we are, we were counting and I think got some federal help on that. How much more we need will depend on how well people behave and how well we control the virus. But one of the ironies is that there are huge companies such as Amazon and some of our Walmart and some of these other big retail establishments that have been able to weather the storm very, very well by providing what people need through deliveries, and they're frankly rolling in money. Some of our other industries that have been forced to do layoffs, like our restaurants and our tourist-related businesses, are not. And in the past, the ones that deplete the fund pay back into the fund, and there's a kind of an adjustment on what kind, whether you're a heavy user or a light user. I think that we need to look at what the requirements are for that, and how can we spread the pain a little bit and delay any adverse impacts if possible, so that we can get all of our economy up and running as appropriate.
Thanks for that. This one you touched on a little bit as well. What are our overall goals for the upcoming legislative session?
For my my personal goals is to be measured, transparent, and future oriented. A few years ago when quite a few years ago when we were looking at huge hits to our budget, we cut the care of seniors in their homes. And what I heard from minimum wage workers who were doing really hard work for people that would be a lot more expensive to care for in nursing homes that were trying to age in place. And people were on the clock, their phones were keeping track of their hours, and their hours were cut. And they had to make choices between helping someone with their food and changing their sheets for somebody that was incontinent. I mean, it was real hard what those choices were with those workers that weren't making very much money. Since then, we've provided health care, we've provided higher wages, and we have more people needing those services. And so I'm going to be real careful about where we cut, if we cut. And I've been committed all along and have been very consistent that when we make changes or do anything with our tax system, I hope that and pray that we will be able to do something that is less regressive and more suitable for the kinds of economies we want in the future. We are sales tax dependent, and our sales tax hasn't taken as big a hit as one would expect because of online sales. And I helped do some work as a county lobbyist to make sure that we got that those sales taxes from online purchases didn't go to the states we ordered from. They go to the communities where people are buying those products, and so that has saved us. And I'm very proud of the work I did when I was a county lobbyist on that issue. to make sure sales tax goes where it should. And that has kept us from some severe pain. So I'm very interested in not becoming more regressive. If things are very unpopular or very, very harsh, I hope that they're temporary. And I'll be looking at what our needs are and what kind of support we're getting from the federal government, and what's a crisis and what can be addressed later, because we're going to have limited amount of time and capacity to do what we need to do.
Yeah, thanks, Sharon, for taking the time to answer all these questions. There's some really heavy
Good
things
questions.
here, so really appreciate it. Thanks for doing that. Well, with that, leave this for everyone else to make sure to get out and vote, get your ballots in for November 3rd.
Thank you.